the Unwitting Outlaw. Let me introduce myself. I'm Jerry McFlynn, your run-of-the-mill garden-variety suburbanite, with a slight penchant for weekend barbecues and a well-manicured lawn. Little did I know that my innocuous suburban pursuits would catapult me into the crosshairs of one of the most feared and relentless organizations in the covert world of garden governance, the Federal Bureau of Lawn Enforcement, FBLE. Now you might chuckle, thinking it's a joke. A Bureau for Lawn Enforcement. Sounds like a skit right out of a slapstick comedy show. But oh, let me assure you, they are no laughing matter, unless you count the kind of nervous laughter that accompanies the realization that yes, these sunglass-wearing, rule-quoting, grass-measuring agents are dead serious about their turf. The FBLE operates under the radar, literally. They've got drones, stealth technology, and an undying passion for the green grass of home. Their agents are trained in the fine arts of sod surveillance, mulch monitoring, and the rigorous enforcement of lawn-length legality. With a motto like, "Every blade a suspect," you can imagine the level of intensity they bring to their fieldwork. Picture this, a government agency with the resources of the FBI, the stealth of the CIA, and the obsessive focus of someone who can't stop adjusting their sprinkler heads. They've got gadgets that would make a tech enthusiast weep. Night vision goggles for spotting nocturnal watering violations, and soil analysis kits that could tell you more about your dirt than you know about your ancestry. So there I was, a humble homeowner, thrust onto the front line of what I can only describe as a covert operation over a couple of inches of grass. All because I decided to give my lawn a little extra trim one fateful weekend. Who knew that such a trivial choice would lead to a year of espionage, intrigue, and the strangest year of my life? But that's jumping ahead. Let's take it from the top, shall we? How did a simple guy like me end up in the tangled weeds of the FBLE's watchful eyes? Let's just say it all started with a very close shave. The incident that sparked the grand fiasco, now famously known at the FBLE headquarters as the Great Green Infraction, unfolded on a day so typical, you could have mistaken it for any other lazy Saturday. There I was, just a man and his mower, ready to take on the wild frontier of my front yard. It was a perfect sunny day. Birds chirping, neighbors waving, and the aroma of freshly cut grass filling the air. A slice of Americana, if there ever was one. But little did I know, my trusty old mower, affectionately named the Grass Reaper, was about to turn my life upside down. You see, the Reaper has this little lever on it, supposedly to adjust the cutting height. Supposedly, because I'm convinced it's more of a random suggestion box than an actual functional tool. That fateful morning, I gave it what I thought was a minor tweak, a nudge really, nothing more. I was aiming for that crisp golf course look, you know. What I didn't realize was that by lowering the blade to what I thought was 2.1 inches, it was actually at a daring and dangerous 1.95 inches. Scandalous, right? Now, in the FBLE's eyes, this wasn't just a slight adjustment. Oh no, it was the lawn care equivalent of an international crime spree. As my mower hummed innocently along, chopping those grass blades down to their near demise, little did I know that satellites, yes, satellites, were positioning themselves in orbit, cameras zooming in on my property with the kind of precision that could spot a flea on a squirrel from space. Unbeknownst to me, at that very moment, the FBLE's grass-length monitoring division was in full alert mode. Back at their high-tech underground command center, which I imagine is decked out with wall-to-wall screens displaying real-time lawn stats, alarms were blaring. Technicians in lab coats and headsets were scrambling, and someone, somewhere, was likely pushing a big red button with the tag, Code Green. An FBLE agent, hidden in an inconspicuous van parked down the street, disguised as a typical telecom service vehicle, was monitoring my every move. Through binoculars, he noted the exact length of my grass post cut, mumbling into his walkie-talkie. "Target has trimmed to 1.95 inches. I repeat, 1.95 inches. Initiate Operation Overgrowth." Thus, my simple attempt to tidy up my lawn had inadvertently thrust me into the clandestine world of underground lawn regulations. The stage was set, the players were in motion, and my lawn and I were about to become the center of a year-long saga that would forever change how I viewed every blade of grass under my care. After the nefarious lawn trimming incident, my life took a turn for the surreal. It was as if I had accidentally signed up for a reality TV show, one that specialized in paranoia and featured an unusually high budget for surveillance equipment. First came the men in black. No, not the cool ones who chase aliens, but mysterious fellows in crisp, dark suits who suddenly took a keen interest in neighborhood potlucks and little league games. They'd stand at the edge of the park, sunglasses firmly in place despite the overcast days, pretending to read newspapers that were obviously upside down. Their attempts at blending in were about as subtle as a marching band in a library. Then there were the drones. I'm not talking about the occasional buzz overhead. These drones became part of the local skyline. They were like pesky metallic mosquitoes, equipped with what I can only assume were high-definition cameras and perhaps even tiny little notepads for jotting down suspicious botanical activities. They seemed particularly fascinated by my daffodils. Maybe they suspected the bulbs were a secret communication device, or perhaps they thought the petals were plotting a colourful coup. But the pièce de résistance of this whole absurd surveillance saga was the garbage guy. Every Tuesday, after the garbage trucks came and went, this fellow would show up, dressed in what looked like a rejected costume from a spy movie. He wore all black, complete with a ski mask, as if my trash cans contained state secrets. With the precision of a bomb diffuser, he would sift through my refusee, extracting lawn clippings and spent flowers with tweezers and muttering to himself about investigative foliage procedures. One morning, fueled by curiosity and an extra strong cup of coffee, I approached him. "Finding anything interesting?" I inquired, as nonchalantly as one could when speaking to a man elbow-deep in your discarded vegetable peelings. He jumped, clearly not expecting a friendly chat. "Just standard procedure, sir. Monitoring pH levels and, compost security," he stammered, before hastily retreating with a bag of what I assume was evidence of my criminal gardening habits. This bizarre period stretched on, each day bringing some new level of ludicrousness. I started waving at the drones before retrieving my morning newspaper and offering coffee to the men in black, who never accepted but always seemed appreciative of the gesture. All in all, I was living in a strange new world, where every petal and leaf might be part of a grand ecological conspiracy, at least in the eyes of the FBLE. As if my own personal surveillance saga wasn't entertaining enough, soon enough the whole neighborhood was getting a slice of the absurdity pie. The FBLE, in their relentless pursuit of whatever green conspiracy they thought I was masterminding, began interrogating my neighbors with a zeal that would make a game show host blush. My next-door neighbor, Martha, who prides herself on knowing everyone's business before they do, was the first to report back on her encounter. Over coffee one morning, she nearly choked on her muffin as she recounted the agents asking her, "Has Jerry ever expressed a desire to harm or maliciously neglect any patches of crabgrass?" Martha, who couldn't tell a crabgrass from a crab cake, was utterly baffled. "I told them you were more likely to bake a pie for the crabgrass than poison it," she laughed. Then there was Bob, the retired schoolteacher across the street, who found himself part of the FBLE's neighborhood canvass. He came over one afternoon, grinning ear to ear. "They asked me if I'd ever seen you engaging in unauthorized lawn gatherings or if you had a history of radical fertilization techniques," he chuckled. I told them your idea of radical was switching from slow release to liquid fertilizer. Even the local kids weren't spared. Teenagers talked about being stopped on their skateboards and asked if they had ever witnessed suspicious mulching activities at my house, or if I had ever tried to recruit them into illegal landscaping operations. The kids thought it was a hoot and started calling me El Chapo of the Chrysanthemums. At the monthly neighborhood watch meeting, which had never been more well attended, the room buzzed with whispered stories and outright guffaws over the FBLE's antics. They asked if Jerry had a secret shed for sharp shears. One neighbor gossiped, while another joked, "I heard they're going to tap our sprinklers next." The absurdity of it all turned my situation into a local legend. My lawn and I were now the center of all jokes, with neighbors playfully warning new residents about living near the infamous lawn lawbreaker. It was bewildering, sure, but it also brought a strange sort of camaraderie to our street. We were all in this bizarre story together, united by the common enemy of overly eager government agents with a peculiar passion for policing petunias and prosecuting perennials. The day finally arrived when the FBLE decided they had gathered enough evidence to bring me in for questioning. I received a formal letter embossed with the FBLE seal, an intricate design featuring a lawnmower crossed with a magnifying glass. The summons was set for a time that suggested these people had no concept of regular human schedules, 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. I arrived at the specified government building, which was as imposing as a fortress and about as welcoming as a dentist's chair. Inside, I was led through a series of hallways that were so nondescript you could easily imagine getting lost and turning up years later, still trying to find your way out. Finally, I was shown into the interrogation room. The room itself was straight out of a noir detective movie, bathed in shadows with a single overhead light that seemed designed to make you sweat, or in my case, wonder if they were trying to grow something with that much focused light. At the end of a stark metal table sat Agent Smith, his face shadowed ominously, making him look like he belonged in a witness protection program rather than a law enforcement agency. He didn't waste any time. As soon as I sat down, he slid a photograph across the table with a drama that suggested he'd been practicing this move with a drama coach. It was a high-resolution aerial shot of my lawn, looking almost majestic, which was a bit flattering, if not for the circumstances. "Mr. McFlynn," he began, his voice grave, "do you recognize this turf?" I nodded, half expecting him to accuse me of harboring an escaped convict under my fescue. "That's my lawn," I replied, trying to keep the bewilderment out of my voice. Agent Smith then leaned forward, the light catching his glasses in such a way that his eyes were completely obscured. "And were you aware, Mr. McFlynn, that under the highly classified Statute 42, Section D, Paragraph 5, it is a violation of federal law to trim your lawn to a height of less than 2 inches during a leap year?" I stared at him, utterly dumbfounded. "I'm sorry, it's a what year?" He sighed, as if explaining the obvious to a particularly slow child. "A leap year, Mr. McFlynn. February had 29 days. Didn't you notice?" I shook my head, partly in denial, partly wondering if this was how I'd be spending every leap year from now on, discussing grass length with government agents. Agent Smith shook his head in disappointment, as if my ignorance of calendrical anomalies was a personal affront. "Your mower was set to 1.95 inches. This egregious act has been documented, deliberated, and verified by our top turf technicians. You, Mr. McFlynn, have unlawfully assaulted your own lawn." The interrogation continued for what seemed like hours, though the clock on the wall seemed to be as confused as I was, occasionally going backwards. Agent Smith detailed the repercussions of my crime, using terms like grass grievance and horticultural violation. By the end, The verdict came down with the gravity of a judge sentencing a hardened criminal, but instead of a courtroom, it was delivered in that overly dramatic interrogation room. Agent Smith announced my fate with a severity that almost made me forget we were talking about grass. "Mr. McFlynn," he declared, "you are hereby fined $15 for aggravated assault on grass." The phrase, aggravated assault on grass, was said with such solemnity, you would have thought I'd taken a scythe to an endangered species. I paid the fine right there, $15, handed over with a smirk that I couldn't suppress. The agent took it gravely, as if the small crumpled bills were the proceeds of a major crime syndicate's downfall. I left the building with a receipt for my crime, wondering if I should frame it or just stick it on the fridge as a conversation piece. Since that day, my lawn care regimen has changed drastically. I've let the grass grow a bit taller, a lush green badge of my brush with the law. My mower sits in the garage, set permanently above the 2-inch legal limit, just in case the FBLE decides to mount a sudden raid. I've even installed a ruler next to the shed, part practical tool, part garden gnome kitsch, to measure the grass before each mow. Neighbors pass by, giving the lawn a knowing nod, and sometimes we share a chuckle over my brush with the turf authorities. The whole ordeal has become neighborhood law, and Jerry's grass incident is now a benchmark for bureaucratic absurdity. It's sparked a series of lawn care cautionary tales among the local community, each more embellished than the last, about the lengths to which the FBLE will go to ensure law and order in the leafy suburbs. So, let this be a lesson to all who wield a lawnmower. Always check the calendar before you mow. Leap years have taken on new significance in our household, marked on every calendar with a big, bold warning. Danger, high grass enforcement period. Trust me, you don't want the FBLE on your lawn, case. Their dedication to the greenery is unmatched, their surveillance relentless, and their fines, while not bank-breaking, come with enough paperwork to wallpaper your living room. And if you ever find yourself in a similar predicament, remember, sometimes the law is not just about black and white, but about shades of green.